Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Las Vegas Sports Services NBA Weekly Report. I'm John Cranton in Las Vegas, joined by Jeff Saad, who runs L.V.S.S. We're going to take a look at Week 2 of the NBA Playoffs. Got some free picks, some trivia, and some betting trends to look at. We're going to examine some of the games coming up over the next week in the NBA Playoffs. But first, Jeff Saad, going back to 2011, you just love the NBA Playoffs. 67-37-1 spread run, including a winning run this postseason. How do you do it, and what do you have for everybody to get aboard?
Well, I love the NBA playoffs. I was 2-0 Thursday night. I'm going to give you 7 days of baseball. Well, I'm going to give you 7 days NBA, and as a bonus, I'm going to give you baseball. If you call and use the code word Grand Slam, you're going to get baseball as a bonus. You're going to get a week of NBA, 7 days, $7. Use the code word Grand Slam, get a week of baseball also, and that all you have to do is call LVSS, so 1-866-575-8916. It's just $1 a day, NBA and baseball. Use the code word Grand Slam, get the baseball bonus. Once again, the number to call is 1-866-575-8916.
Okay, that's a full week of action. 2 different sports there, baseball and the NBA from a Vegas Pro. All right, let's start with the NBA playoffs. And, we might as well start with the injuries, Jeff. It's really astonishing. I've never seen a postseason in the Lakers with Kobe Bryant out, and now they're having injuries, too, with Steve Blake. And then the big one this week, Russell Westbrook was going to get knee surgery, and we saw that in the betting line. Oklahoma State was a 3.5-point favorite. Now Houston is a favorite. Stephen Curry is going to be a game-time decision for Golden State. Denver went from a 1-point underdog to a 1-point favorite. Because of that, Dwayne Wade has, again, knee concerns. Joakim Noah is playing on that bad foot, but only 20 to 25 minutes. Tom Thibodeau is limiting his minutes. Joe Johnson has a foot injury. His line movement, is that justified, or is that the public overreacting to injuries?
Well, the lines are always adjusted for injuries. That's why sometimes the injury is overrated, because a lot of times people bet because the team is missing a player, but the line's already been adjusted. So you might be hurting yourself there, because the line makers know about the injury just as much as you do. With Westbrook, it's just really a shame. Not only is it's ironic, too, because I don't think he's ever missed a game, even going back through college, or grade school, or high school, and just a freak accident, and now he's going to be out. And I felt the Thunder was about the only team that had a chance to beat the Heat. Now the Heat, I don't see anybody beating the Heat right now. But as far as line moves, you still have to consider the fact that the line move has already been adjusted. So don't make too much of it, John.
Okay, yeah, and the backup point guard for Oklahoma City, keep in mind, is Reggie Jackson. That's going to be something to watch, with more scoring being asked of Kevin Durant. Very interesting what has happened, transpired in that series. One of the big series here is the Nuggets-Warriors, the games 3 and 4 taking place this weekend. They split the first 2 games. Denver held home court advantage, and then Golden State, with a phenomenal offensive performance from Stephen Curry, blew them out in Game 2, a game that sailed over the total. So that series, you had first game under, the second game over, and there's also some key injuries with Curry, who has the betting edges for the games in Golden State this weekend.
Well, that game, Game 2, was really remarkable. One way to overcome the absence of David Lee is to shoot 65% from the field, 56% from the three-point line. That's not going to happen again. And I think the loss of David Lee will start to take effect in Game 3. He averaged 18.5 points a game, 11.2 rebounds. He led the league in double-doubles, so it's going to be hard to replace him. Kenneth Reed has to get healthy, because the Nuggets need some help on the boards, and plus they have to adjust to the smaller lineup that the Warriors have put out there. Curry, he always seems to have an ankle problem, so I'm sure he's going to play, and it probably won't affect him too much because he's so used to playing on injured ankles. But I think if Denver can win one game at Golden State, they'll win this game. They'll win the series, because I don't see the Nuggets losing another game at home. They're 39-4 at home this season, and in order to beat them at home, you saw what it had to take. You shoot the lights out to beat them. So if the Nuggets can win one game at Golden State, I think they win the series in 5 or 6.
I'm going to take a look at the total in this Denver-Golden State series. There aren't betting trends that look toward the under, but that's the way I'm going to look at it for a couple of reasons. One, you had the first game that was very defensive, 97-95. Denver win. Golden State shot just 41% from the field, and Denver 44.7. Good, but that's an up-tempo, explosive offensive team. And the thing is, this time of the year, I look more toward unders, generally speaking. Teams are evenly matched. They're playing for something, so they're not likely to give up defensively like we see many times during the regular season. And Golden State, 5th in the NBA in field goal shooting defense this season. Don't always see it in the points allowed. And right before the All-Star break, they had a horrendous stretch where they weren't playing any defense. But overall, Mark Jackson has really gotten this team to play pretty good defense most of the year, and it's a bit of an underrated aspect. And then finally, there's the Denver charity stripe foibles that they have. Worst team in the NBA from the free throw line. Hard to believe with all their offensive weapons, but they are. And, if you're trying to go over the total and you got a team that just is clanking at the free throw line late, that certainly doesn't help in your favor. The only thing to keep in mind is that when these teams play in Golden State, like they will be doing this weekend, it is 16-5 over the total, but there are quite a few defensive trends that favor lower scoring games than the odds makers think, in addition to Stephen Curry not being 100%. Okay, let's move east to take on the Celtics-Knicks series. I guess the word to describe the first couple of games would be ugly. Boston loves to slow the pace down and play tough defense, and the Knicks are fine with that, too. They won the first two games, but they weren't pretty. 85-78, 87-71, sailing under the total. Jeff, are we going to see any offense, and is this series over?
Well, I think the reason for this is largely the loss of Rajon Rondo. The Celtics held their own without him for the rest of the regular season, but now you're seeing big problems because they really don't have a transition game now. And if they don't have that, they don't have much of a game at all. The Knicks are taking advantage of it. Last week I said the Knicks were living and dying with a three-point shot. I should have given more credit to the defense because they're holding Boston to 39% from the field, and the Knicks themselves are only shooting 41%. So you have to give the Knicks defense a tremendous amount of credit here. It's a little bit surprising for me because I didn't think they were that strong on defense, but they're doing a great job there. Celtics could take game 3. There's always that trend. If you're down 2-0 going home, there's a letdown by the team that's up 2-0, and the team that's down 2-0 is desperate. So I won't be surprised if the Celtics take game 3. But after that, I think the Knicks win this series and probably, as the last series, 5 or 6 games, John.
Yeah, and some trends to keep in mind. The road team, when these two rivals in the same division meet, the road team is 10-4 against the spread the last 14 meetings. When they play in Boston, 5-1 under the total the last 6 meetings. No surprise at all. The first 2 went under. And with Boston's problems, it's mainly been in the second half. Their offense has just completely imploded. It's really been difficult to fathom. But there's no other way to look at this series. There's slow defense because nobody really has any offensive edge. And one thing that, the Knicks are getting by with this, but I think it's a major problem for them, and that is Carmelo Anthony. He's taken all the shots, getting no assists, but he's really been much of a ball hog. They've been able to mask that by winning the first 2 games in this series, and I suspect they're still going to win the series with ease. But, boy, when they move on, and you got a guy like Carmelo who's taken all the shots, getting nobody else involved, it's much easier defensively for other coaches to look at it and say, well, we're just going to harass him or double team him, and then that can really cause some problems for a Knicks team that, as you mentioned, also relies quite a bit on the three-pointer. Okay, let's take a look at the Memphis Clippers series moving back. It's in Memphis, but we're moving Saturday to Game 4. 2-1 Clippers lead. And we've seen everything in the series. We've seen an offensive show that went over the total in Game 1 when the Clippers dominated. Then we saw Memphis come up with a terrific defensive game to get back in it. Looking at the Game 4 on Saturday, Memphis, again, a 3.5-point favorite, very low total of 177. Jeff, the Clippers going to take command of this series, or we're going to see, like last year, Memphis tie it up and go on make it a long 7-game series?
I'm guessing it's going to be like last year. I still think the series could go 7 games, especially if the Grizzlies win the next one. The Grizzlies won that game Thursday night, even though Mike Conley was sick. He didn't feel well. He had made 1 of 9 field goals. They still had 10 assists. Randolph and Gasol were dominant inside. Neither team shot well Thursday night. Both were around 38%, but I think Memphis can sustain those kind of games, survive those games a lot better than most teams can. 7 of the last 10 meetings have gone under the total, but Thursday was the first one to go under because of the totals. The over and lines have been so low with these teams. But if Memphis can take Game 4, I think this, just like last year, this series will go 7 games.
Yeah, and very much like the Knicks Celtics series that we just talked about, the history of this has all been Memphis controlling the pace. The Clippers very underrated defensively this season, a top 10 team in points allowed and field goal shooting percentage defense. So the Clippers, they like to run, but they can play the slow defensive game if necessary, and that's exactly what Memphis wants to do. And keep in mind that the series history has been low scoring, 7-3 under the total the last 10 meetings. And if you give the Grizzlies an ATS cover, if they get a ATS spread cover, they're an astonishing 38-16 under the total that next game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another slow-paced game until they move back to the West Coast. Another thing to keep in mind with these teams, the home team in all the playoffs started 14-2, and here you have a series in Memphis and L.A. where you're taking a 3,000-mile trip, so it's not surprising to see the visiting team a little bit listless, as we saw last year as the series won 7 games, and so far after the first 3, it's been playing out that way too, where the home team has a decided edge. All right, the other series we're going to look at is the Nets-Bulls series. I don't know if this is going to get down in NBA history as the most exciting series, certainly offensive. How do you assess this weekend's series?
It's making the Knicks Celtics series look exciting. It's hard to watch some of these games. It's even being an NBA fan and a handicapper, sometimes these games are just a grind. The Bulls, the last 2 games, the Bulls have shot 44%. The Nets have shot 35%, and the Nets actually have the better offense. During the regular season, they had the better offense, so you would think Brooklyn was going to get a little bit better and start hitting some shots. Joe Johnson isn't 100% as he has a foot injury. Joakim Noah, he also has a foot injury. He had 1 point in Thursday night's game. The Bulls scored a total of 2 points in the final 5:46, still won the game. So if the Nets can get any offense going and start hitting a few shots, they can steal Game 4 here and probably still win this series in 7 games, John.
Yeah, one of the things that impressed me about the Chicago Bulls is that after losing that first game, they came back and won that game at Brooklyn. And here's how they did it. Game 1, the Nets had 58 points in the paint. They used that front court beef and muscle that they have up front to really push the Bulls around, which not a lot of teams can do. Well, Game 2, they only had 30 points in the paint, almost half as much. And what happened is you have to give credit to 2 things, the heart of the Chicago Bulls and the coaching staff. The heart is often a player who plays with passion. That would be Noah. I mean, this guy was questionable to play with a foot injury, had double digits in rebounds in Game 2. He basically said, you're not going to push us around in the low post, and he didn't. And they stole that win at Brooklyn and then came home and kept home court serving to go up 2-1. And again, they did it with defense and rebounding. And the other thing is the coach, Tom Thibodeau, very good at making adjustments, terrific at getting through to guys and knowing how to motivate them. And really the last 2 games, Games 2 and 3 in the series, it's been played at Chicago's pace. If you remember, the first game was an up-tempo game. Coming into Game 3, Brooklyn said, we want to get back to running the basketball, playing up-tempo. And Chicago came out and admitted before the game, we don't. We want to play a slow, grinding-out defensive style. Well, you saw what happened in Game 3. The Bulls at home played the exact kind of style that they wanted. And as this series goes along, I get the sense that Games 2 and 3 are kind of going to be indicative of how the rest of the series goes. It's going to be defensive. I think Chicago is going to be able to control the tempo even when they go to Brooklyn, and that's going to mean an edge toward lower-scoring games than higher-scoring games. Okay, let's give out some free picks for this weekend action. I'm going to go with the LA Clippers in Game 4 Saturday. I think they have the talent to keep it close, and they are a dog. Jeff, you see anything this weekend?
Yeah, I'm taking the Heat and the Bucks to stay under the total in Game 4. Heat Bucks under the total. That's my free pick for the weekend.
Okay, good. And Jeff, since 2011, he's just been tearing it up in the NBA postseason. 67-37-1 against the spread. If you want to get on board, Jeff, for a special for the next week, Jeff, tell everybody how to do that.
Just call LVSS 1-866-575-8916. You get 7 days for $7. That's all the 5-star Players Edge winners in the NBA. Use the code word Grand Slam. You also get a week of baseball. So just call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916. 7 days for $7.
All right, that'll do it from Las Vegas for this Friday. Jeff and I will be back next Friday to look more at the NBA. Good luck with the games, everyone, and we'll see you then.